I guess I'd describe churchianity as people who go to church, but they don't have Christ. Instead of Christianity, they go to church. They've got an anity, but they haven't got a Christianity. They've got a churchianity.
Hello and welcome to Sacred Book. Steve, from your perspective, what is Christianity?
Christianity is the belief that God manifests himself in human form, the God-man, Yeshua, Jesus, and walked this earth. It's what makes you Christian. Not that you believe in God, but that you believe Jesus is God. Just as a little reminder, Christ is a title. Christos, meaning the anointed one, which is the equivalent of the Hebrew word Moshiach, Messiah. It's not a surname. It's Yeshua HaMashiach, or Jesus the Christ. To be a Christian makes you a follower of him. According to Jesus, God the Father is spirit. It is only in Jesus that you can step into relationship with this great spirit. That's what Christianity is about. It's not an invention by the Apostle Paul. It's not an invention by Jesus. Jesus wasn't a Christian. Jesus was a Jewish rabbi. Jesus was a man who was steeped in the Jewish tradition, who was raised in the Jewish tradition, and who was a Jew. And he is the greatest export that the Jews have ever given the world. He fulfills the Tanakh, if you believe that he is who he says he is.
I've had conversations in the past where someone said, well, is it to do with the resurrection solely? Because he brought back from the dead people, Lazarus for a start, and the young girl. So it's not the fact that he comes from the dead that makes him Christ. It's that in his ministry, he showed his credentials of being the Messiah.
What concerns me with evangelical Christianity, and I'm going to pick on evangelical Christianity because that's the camp that I guess as a Protestant non-denominational pastor I would sit in. So I feel that I'm in a reasonable position to be able to sort of pick on the area that I sit in. Evangelical Christianity will often look to the scriptures and will look at the miracles of the scripture and bring their focus onto the miracles and the supernatural stuff. Big issues around that, in my opinion. The miracles are not there to go, oh wow, Jesus walked on water. Oh wow, Jesus raised the dead. Oh wow, Jesus cleansed the lepers. He didn't heal any lepers, actually, he cleansed them. Jesus restored the sight to the blind. He cast out demons. All of that, ba-down, that sexy stuff. That's not what any of these miracles are about. All of these miracles were about Jesus signifying, showing that he was Messiah. If you were to look at them in depth, every one of those miracles all allude to something in the Jewish tradition that only Messiah could do. So you talked a moment ago about raising Lazarus from the dead. There was a tradition in Jewish understanding. When somebody died, the spirit of the person hovered around the body, and it hovered around the body for 3 days, and on the 4th day it was gone. So there was a period in the Jewish folklore, in their myth, in their legends, in their understanding, that there was a period of time when the spirit could re-infuse the body because it hovered over it, and that person could come back from the dead. The Jews believed in resurrection from the dead, with the exception of perhaps the Sadducees. I don't think they believed in the resurrection from the dead, but the Pharisees and others, they believed that there was a resurrection and in the end times, and there was a belief that dead bodies could come back to life. The Tanakh talks about that with various people in the Old Testament. The miracle for Jesus was not that he raised Lazarus from the dead. The miracle was that when he went up to visit the town where Lazarus had died, which I think was in Bethany, I think it was Martha who rang up to him and said, "Lord, you're too late. He's a fourth-day man." Now, why is that significant?
Because the spirit's gone.
He's a fourth-day man. That's it. He's gone. Unless you were Messiah. Only Messiah could bring back a fourth-day man. So the miracle was not that Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. The miracle was that Jesus nailed his credentials there on that empty tomb of Lazarus by saying, yeah, he was a fourth-day man, guess what? And he's back up. Everything that he did was pointing to the people of Israel that he was their long-awaited for Messiah, as prophesied by the prophet Isaiah, and that he came in a form that they missed. The Jewish failure to recognize him as Messiah has been the greatest gift that they have given to the rest of the world, because the floodgates were then opened up and Gentiles were grafted in to the root of the Jewish faith. The Jews have got so much that they've given us in terms of a monotheistic belief, whether that's from the Islamic tradition as well, of course, because that all stemmed from Abraham, Ishmael, etc., all the way along the line. You know, the people of the book, very, very important in terms of the Islamic faith. So they've given us a huge, rich taproot. And Christianity was a sect of Judaism. It was believed by Jewish people who recognized that Jesus was Messiah. And that's how it all sort of grew. The floodgates were opened up through the Apostle Paul when he had a vision of the risen ascended Christ. And the risen ascended Christ gave him revelation that was revealed only to Paul, not to anybody else. And that was about how there was this thing called the church, the body of Christ. This is a term only used by Paul, not used by any of the other disciples, where there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither male nor female, neither slave nor free. Everybody comes together as one. A unity in diversity, mirroring what I believe the Godhead is, an echad, a unity in diversity. And in the church we see the earthly mirroring of that. There are some very great creeds as to what Orthodox Christianity believes, that Jesus was born of Virgin Mary, that he lived, that he died, that he taught, that he rose from the dead, that he ascended into heaven, etc., etc. The belief in Jesus as the manifestation of God in human form. Nice and simple.
So what's with the other churches?
Many churches have the wrong focus. The focus is no longer on Jesus. The focus is on chasing the miracle, chasing the event, chasing the supernatural, chasing the spiritual.
Right.
As a Christian, your heart, your soul, your focus should be on Jesus. That's it. And then everything else flows from that. You imagine a wheel. He is the hub of the wheel. And if you want all of these other great things that flow, then you need to focus on that hub so that they can flow. If you focus on the rim, you're going to get a wonky wheel. And I think that what too much of the church does is it focuses on tongues, healings, deliverance, all of that sort of stuff, rather than focus on the giver of all of those things, which is Christ. If you focus on the person of Jesus, everything else will flow. If you don't, it won't. And then what you do is you sell short what the Christian faith is. Because people will go, I want to see miracles, and they'll come to see miracles because somebody's got some healing crusade going, and guess what? They don't see any miracles. And then they come away disappointed. Well, you're going to come away disappointed because that's not where your focus should be. Let me introduce you to this God-man Jesus. Let me talk you through who he is. Meet him, And then you'd have to worry about the rest. You won't go chasing after miracles. Everything that happens comes through him to you. And what he chooses to do, he chooses to do. You should be quite comfortable with that. So I think we've lost our focus on what our faith system's about. Go to the book of Revelation, chapter 3, and Jesus is written to the 7 churches. And the last church he gets to is the Laodicean church. And he says to them, you're neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were hot or cold, but you're not, you're lukewarm, so I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Open the door, and I'll come in and meet with you, eat with you, sit with you, all of this sort of stuff, and we'll fellowship together. This is Jesus knocking on the door of his church to be invited back in. When the church focuses on who it should focus on, the church will again move in power. Until then, it won't.
A nice segue to then discussing churchianity. I'm going to refer to your website, Highway Church, in which you are currently putting up videos as we record on Revelation. And there's an interesting point where you put the 7 churches and equate them to the 7 ages of the church. And the Laodicean is currently the age of apostasy. When we were talking about Christian nationalism, it's the age where Christians now, a lot of them, don't even refer or want to refer to Christ. Is that a symptom of churchianity?
I think so. I guess I'd describe churchianity as people who go to church, but they don't have Christ. Instead of Christianity, they go to church. They've got an anity, but they haven't got a Christianity. They've got a churchianity. And I see in the future the church parting ways with itself, in so much as there is relational Christianity and there is institutional Christianity. And I think that relational Christianity is where Christ is once again brought back into the heart of his body. He is the head of the body. He's the thing that controls the church. And so we need to be subject to who he is. And you can only be subject to who he is when he's around. If you chop off the head, well, the body dies. So much of Christianity is tried to chop the head off, and the church will just die. But institutional Christianity seems to have aligned itself really well with political agendas, which is where we came in and talked about Christian nationalism. Where the focus is not on me talking to you and saying, hey mate, let me share with you my thoughts and my experiences around a real individual who really walked this earth 2,000 years ago and what he has done for me. Let me share that with you and build relationship, not only with you, but relationship vertically. So it's a horizontal relationship with people around us, and it's a vertical relationship. What my mission in life should be to become transparent, so that when you see me, you don't see me, you see the God that I worship. Because we become like the gods we worship. Everybody worships a God, even the staunchest atheist worships a God. Because that God will be lust or power or sex or money or greed or whatever it might be. And that will become your little God. It will be career, it will be ambition, it will be influence, it will be whatever it is. And you will become like that. It will flow out of you. This is what we see in the church. A church which is Christ-centered, Christ-focused, and recognizes the importance of who Jesus is will become a church that is attractive. Not because the people in it are attractive, but because you don't see the people in it, you see who they allow to flow through them, which is the person of Jesus.